Good morning, everybody. What is going on, y'all? Renee here. Happy Monday. Happy start to your week. I hope you are all having a good morning so far. I hope you're all keeping warm. I hope you are not frozen like a popsicle, or at least you're attempting to defrost from wherever you are, from the crazy cold weather that we've been having. And from what I can tell, a lot of parts of the country here are having the same issue as well. I saw this morning that there were schools still closed in some regions of the US that are suffering from these frigid temperatures. I was very limited with what I did over the weekend because of the cold weather. Plus, I didn't have much going on, to be honest with you. There's no real good, decent movie that's like driving me to go out to the theaters to watch. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I stayed home, caught up on some of my 2023 movie backlog that I'm trying to get out of the way, because if you are already subscribed to the channel, you would have already seen that this morning I posted the Movie Time podcast Oscar nomination predictions video. Now, if you are subscribed to the podcast channel, you already have heard this, because that's where we debuted that episode about a couple of weeks ago. So I finally had the chance to clip it out and upload it to the channel here. So if you want to hear our thoughts, Blake and I's, about the Oscar nominations that are going to be announced tomorrow morning, I will be live streaming my reaction to the live announcement of the nominations tomorrow morning. It's going to be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So depending on where you are located, adjust accordingly if you want to join me on that. It's going to be an early one. I don't normally plan to stream on Tuesdays, but it is a special occasion. I have to talk about the Oscar nomination. So if you want to hear our prep and kind of our predictions to that, check out that video on the channel that was posted this morning. And then if you feel like you want to join in on the fun and the festivities tomorrow morning, as I react and watch the live nominees announced, then stay tuned to the channel. Either bookmark the channel or subscribe. That way you could get notified every time I go live or a new movie is posted. So love my coffee in the morning. You love my my Wookiee mug, my Chewbacca mug there. One of my favorite purchases I ever made at any Disneyland or Disney World location. So how are all your weekends? Don't be shy. Chime in the chat. Let me know how your weekends were. Like I said, mine was low key. Haha, no pun intended. But there was one casualty. I have to report an unfortunate casualty because of the frigid temperature over the weekend. I did suffer a loss. And that was the loss of my Coke Zero can that I left in the car, in the trunk of my car, because I totally didn't think about it until yesterday morning, when it dawned on me that probably having sodas in the trunk of your car outside in below 20-degree temperature is probably a bad idea. So as I was preparing my early lunch breakfast, I was just like, you know what? Maybe I should go in there and check it out to make sure that nothing is wrong. So I obviously put on my clothes, run outside. And I opened the trunk, and yep, lo and behold, I had one 12-pack box of mixed sodas in there. Alongside of that, I also had a lot of those 12-ounce bottles of sodas. Why do you have so much sodas in your car, Renee? What are you doing? Well, let me explain. So when I go to the movies, obviously we all know concessions are expensive and all, but I also still want to support the cinemas because they make their money from concessions, right? but there's only so much money I can give them at the time right now. So what I do is I compromise. I bring my own sodas, but I still buy popcorn. So it's kind of like a give and take situation there. Yeah, it's kind of like a compromise that I don't necessarily have with the movie theaters, but with my movie theater that I go to, in my head, that's the compromise I'm making with them. And plus, I'm not the only one who apparently does that. I feel like everyone nowadays does that. You could tell when you're watching a movie, you hear the popping of the cans, like, right? So I keep sodas in the trunk of my car so that I have something to bring with me inside the theater. Now, we've been getting this freezing temperature now for what, 4 days, 5 days, you know? And this whole time, I did not think once, hey, maybe I should go down and, bring the sodas in, until yesterday morning. So, but here's the funny story. Out of all the cans of soda, out of the bottles and everything, only one can exploded. One. So I consider myself to be extremely, extremely lucky in that sense. Now, unfortunately, I had a bunch of Coke Zero kind of slush in the trunk of my car. So I did what I could to kind of just clear everything out. Of course, I brought all the remaining sodas in. I was able to salvage all of them, which is great. I said my last prayers to the one can of Coke Zero. I bid it adieu. And then, to prevent staining and stickiness and all that, I took some of the snow from the ground and I kind of just laid them in the car in the spots where all the Coke slush was to kind of like even things out. That's how science works, right? That's basically what you do. Yeah. So I'm smart. That's why I'm smart. So yeah. So that was my unfortunate casualty of the frigid weekend. Again, if you're watching this now, hello. Don't be shy, say hi. Or if you're watching this on the replay, let me know if you had any unfortunate happenings during the cold and frigid temperatures that we've had this past weekend. All right. That being said, I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood for love. No, that's not it. It's Monday. Let's talk about box office, y'all. Box office. Box office time. Box office time. Box office. Which movie was on top? That's what she said.
I'm gonna come.
All right. So let's talk about some box office numbers. Let's see what went popping and locking during the weekend there. So I got my handy dandy site here opened up, thenumbers.com. It's my reliable source for all things box office number related and all that. If you're familiar with the channel, every Tuesday I do like trivia. So anytime there's a box office related trivia question, I always get it from this site here because they have like all the numbers, hence thenumbers.com. So at number one, again, for the second week in a row, we have Mean Girls, the Mean Girls musical, pulling in 11.7 million. It was a very, very quiet weekend, despite the fact that we had one movie release, maybe two, if you include the Queen IMAX concert film. But Mean Girls is number one, 11.7 million. Total domestic gross right now is 50 million, I believe. 50 million domestically. Internationally, it hasn't done that hot. 66.2 overall worldwide box office there. Jason Statham's The Beekeeper, number two. So basically, the top five from last weekend remains to be the top five again this past weekend. So you have The Beekeeper at number two with 8.4 million. Wonka at number three, 6.4 million. Wonka unbelievably still going strong. I talked about them last week, how they have quietly broke the $500 million worldwide mark, which is an amazing feat. So they're definitely way over that now. Anyone But You remains at fourth, 5.4 million from the weekend. Migration, the animated film from Universal there, 5.3, 94 million domestic. Let's see, how is it looking? Wow, international. Okay, worldwide, 191. So I have a feeling they're going to hit the 200 million mark within the next couple of weeks for sure. Six, we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. That's still chugging along as best as it could with 3.6 million. The new release, ISS. This is a kind of a lower budget independent science fiction movie that stars Ariana DeBose from West Side Story, and she was the lead in Wish, the Disney animated movie. 3 million opening weekend. Yikes. I am afraid to know what kind of budget this movie had. But basically, it's about it feels like a storyline that we've gotten before, where there's like a mishap at the International Space Station and people are abandoned and all that. ISS movie budget. Let's see. Oh, ouch. Oof. 100 million, huh? Wait, this is not right. Okay. See, this is where it's dangerous to look at things online. All right. So the estimated budget for ISS is actually 20 million. That sounds about right because again, it is a lower budget film. It's produced and released by Bleecker Street, and they're a studio that does a lot of independent, smaller budget films. So okay, is that makes much more sense there. I thought we were gonna have another freaking hot mess of a release here with a high budget, but 20 million. But still, when you think about 20 million versus the 3 million that they got opening weekend, they are not going to recover from that budget. Not at all. I mean, I haven't heard much about the movie except those who I follow on Letterboxd have been giving it bad ratings. Those who have seen it, I was somewhat curious about it, and I thought about seeing it over the weekend, but then I said, you know what? Nah, I'm good. So that comes in seventh there. Night Swim drops a place down with 2.7 million. That is the horror film about white people swimming in a pool. Boys in the Boat from MGM, 2.5 is in ninth. And Poor Things remains at 10th, $2 million over the weekend. The other newer release that we got over the weekend was this Queen concert film that was released in IMAX. It's this it's one of their concerts that was filmed in Montreal, Canada. So that had like an IMAX release there, and it got 2 million. Since it's so slow, I know IMAX is re-releasing a lot of high Hollywood budgeted movies in the next couple of weeks. They have already done some already before. But like Dune is re-releasing, Oppenheimer was re-released in IMAX. We're going to start seeing a lot of that, I think, happening until we start getting some of the bigger titles releasing in the next couple of months. So if you've ever wanted to see one of these movies in IMAX, maybe now is a great time for you to do so because they're going to be re-releasing them in theaters there. Another thing I wanted to mention too, because this was an article that I read over the weekend, is the Iron Claw. The Iron Claw movie from A24 with Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, and another whole slew of great actors and performances here. This is kind of like the based on true story film about wrestling, about the wrestling family that I really thoroughly enjoyed. I did not include Zac Efron, Iron Claw, or Jeremy Allen White in any of my predictions for the nominations for tomorrow because I just don't think there's enough love for this film. There's a lot of great buzz and love for his performance, for Zac Efron's performance, but I think it's being overshadowed by the numerous amounts of other great performances that we had from last year. But the Iron Claw hit 30 million over the weekend. And according to the article I wrote, this is A24's sixth highest grossing film of all time. Number one being Everything Everywhere All at Once. I believe they still hold the record for A24 films. I'll check that in a minute. But again, A24 is my bread and butter. They're like the studios that I love. I always support every chance I can get. They are known for smaller budgeted releases, movies, and all that. So anytime a movie of theirs can hit some bit of the mainstream is an accomplishment and achievement. So I'm always celebrating and happy about that. Plus, Godzilla Minus One officially broke the 100 million mark over the weekend. Excuse me. So that was a great thing to see there too. So yeah, so here is the grossing films for A24's filmography there. You can see, like I mentioned before, Everything Everywhere All at Once holds the record. Lady Bird is number 2 for now. You have Uncut Gems, Hereditary, Talk to Me, and Moonlight. This hasn't been updated yet from what I can tell, so I think the Iron Claw will be surpassing Moonlight once these numbers have been updated here. So yeah. So great accomplishment there for A24. So I'm extremely happy with that performance for that movie because it totally deserves it. Yeah. So as far as the movies are concerned that I watched over the weekend, I watched 3. Believe it or not, I watched 3 movies over the weekend because again I wanted to make sure that I tried to sneak in and catch up on as much as I could in the month of January because this month really has no real like pressing major movie release at all throughout the whole month. So it's a perfect month for someone like myself to really catch up on a lot of these films. One such film I caught up on is this movie called Eileen. Come on, Eileen. Oh, ba-da-da-doo. If this movie was a retail department store, I would call it Eileen's Basement. I'm proud of myself on that one. That's what I put on my Letterboxd review because that's the only thing I had to say about this movie, which is unfortunate. It is a thriller mystery movie starring Thomasin McKenzie, who I really love as one of the newest actresses in Hollywood right now. If you had a chance to watch Last Night in Soho, she was brilliant in that film. So, of course, I wanted to see what her next thing was going to be. Anne Hathaway, of course, we know who Anne Hathaway is by now. And Anne Hathaway was Anne Hathaway. The biggest criticism that I always have about Anne Hathaway is the fact that she has a tendency to be like that actress who can overact and be a little bit obnoxious and all. And I feel like we got that Anne Hathaway in this movie. The last Anne Hathaway film I saw was 2 years ago, I believe. It was at a New York Film Festival, and I was actually praising her performance in this film that I saw. Let's see, Anne Hathaway movies. Armageddon Time. Armageddon Time was a film. She played a mother in the film, kind of like an older mother type figure. And I thought she did a great job. You know, a typical New York mom, New York Jewish mom. And I thought she did a brilliant job. I really enjoyed her performance a lot. I didn't get that sense that she was like reaching too far, you know, kind of like over, you know, the whole overacting actress that we tend to see from time to time. But unfortunately, we got her in this one, and I could kind of see what the director was trying to do here. Director is William Oldroyd, who I'm not so familiar with. He was attempting to do kind of your 70s, 60s, 70s throwback femme fatale type of film. But it took you through this weird journey, and I feel like it kind of pulled the rug out from under you because the whole first half of the movie, I thought we were going one direction, and then there was this like weird ass twist that happens towards the middle, like pretty much right when the third act was about to start. And the movie pretty much centers around Thomasin McKenzie's character, who is this daughter of a retired cop who is a drunk and can be overly abusive. Who they're mourning the passing of the wife, the mom. She has a sibling or siblings, I don't remember, but they're not there anymore because they wanted to get as far away from the father as possible. So Thomasin McKenzie's character is there to take care of the dad, and she works at the local prison facility as kind of like a facilitator, not really a secretary, but like an organizer and all that. Um, and you could tell that there's like this rift between the two. She takes care of him, but begrudgingly takes care of him, right? I don't think he's fully recovered from the fact that he's no longer a cop. So he still like goes around the street waving his gun around when he's drunk, because of something that he didn't like or he saw that he didn't like or whatever. But they painted this picture about this character, Thomasin McKenzie's character of Eileen, as someone who is a young woman who hasn't really experienced life a lot, and she's extremely curious about sex and sexuality. The movie starts off with her being parked in, I guess, a typical parking area location where people will go and make out and all that stuff. And you could see like she's watching this one couple in a car near her, doing their thing. And you could tell she's like turned on and she's frustrated and she tries to calm herself down. And it's almost as if she's torturing herself, because we see another fact where she tortures herself because she loves sweets. So she's eating chocolate, but then spitting them out, eating chocolate and then spitting them out. So she doesn't really fully indulge in the pleasure of these things. She just allows herself a little taste and then gets rid of it. So it's almost like she's punishing herself, right? So the facility all of a sudden brings in Anne Hathaway's character of Rebecca, who is now supposed to be like the new facility psychiatrist or whatever. And she's gorgeous. She has blonde hair, and Thomasin, like, she just all of a sudden gets the attention grabbed, right? So she's like fully enthralled with Anne Hathaway's character. And they form a friendship, and they go out drinking and this and that. They dance. There's this dancing that lasts forever, it felt like. So you could tell that they're building this whole thing where, there could be a budding romantic relationship between the two. And, Eileen is someone who's never experienced that before, and you could tell she's falling head over heels. And then in a bizarre ass twist, we find out that one of the prisoners that Rebecca, Anne Hathaway's character, is kind of mentoring or kind of talking to, she ends up at the mom's house, who is more than likely one of the reasons why this boy is in jail. And unbeknownst to Eileen, she decides to kidnap her because she wants her to form a confession and admit that she did a lot of wrong things that caused her son, the boy who's in jail, to kill her father. And she wants Eileen to help her out. I'm just like, whoa, wait a minute. Where are we going with this? What? And I was just like, okay, this is different. And they're interrogating this poor woman who's tied up in the basement and whatever. And as she's finally confessing and saying that she allowed and let her husband abuse his poor kid, physically, sexually, all that stuff, because it made her feel good, because when it was done, the husband treated her very nicely, and it felt like they were how it was when they fell in love. And Thomasin, Eileen got so pissed off that she accidentally shoots her because she had a gun in her hand, and they have to end up basically killing her. So in a panic, they tried to frame her dad because it's his gun, and all of this crazy stuff. And they form this plot, or at least Eileen forms this plot to try to run away to New York with Rebecca so that they could live a life together. And at the end of the movie, Rebecca doesn't show up. Obviously she probably freaked out. And Eileen just, hitches a ride on some random truck and she leaves town. And that's it. And we assume Eileen is on her way to a better, bigger and better life somewhere. Whatever the case is. And I just and then all of a sudden the credits start rolling and I'm watching this and I'm just like, what the fuck did I just watch? That is just the most bizarrest twist. I don't know what they were trying to say in this movie, but yeah, that was Eileen. And I gave it 2 stars on Letterboxd, and I was just like, okay, that was a movie. That was a movie. And again, I realized what they were trying to do, or what the director was trying to do here, but it didn't work for me. It was just really bizarre and very strange. And it sounds like for the majority of the people who saw it, a lot of them didn't like this film either. I mean, I saw a lot of low ratings and what have you. So if you ever come across the movie Eileen on streaming or something like that, and it looks intriguing because you have Anne Hathaway looking all sexy and stuff, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's basically a giant cock tease at the end of the day. And then the 2 other movies that I watched over the weekend were foreign films, and these were films that were high up on my list. One was a film that I wasn't able to catch at New York Film Festival. I was really bummed out about that. So I was happy I was finally able to catch it this past weekend. And that is Fallen Leaves. Fallen Leaves is a movie from Finland. And it's a comedy romance from director Aki Kaurismäki. Or Kaurismäki. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. This is another director that I'm not so familiar with, but if you are well versed in the indie film genre, like market industry, and foreign film especially, you'll know that this guy is well beloved. One of his older movies was a movie that was included from Finland for the Oscars of that year and was nominated. It didn't win, but it did receive the nomination for International Feature Film that year the movie came out. So at New York Film Festival, there was a lot of buzz surrounding this movie. Hence one of the reasons why I really wanted to see it. And if you are in the kind of Letterboxd community, this is a movie that's been talked about quite a lot, especially towards the end of last year. I'm not familiar with the actors and actresses in this movie. The main actress is Alma Poisti, who plays Ansa, and Jesse Vatanen as Holapa. Again, I am probably butchering these names. I'm not good when it comes to Finnish names. But the thing that really stands out to me is that I am learning more and more that the movie industry in Finland is very strong, in my opinion. Last year, I was treated to the great action film Sisu from Finland that I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. It surprised me. And now Fallen Leaves, which I found to be a very quirky but very charming, simple rom-com. The humor in this film is very deadpan, very serious. So if I were to describe it or kind of compare it to another film that was released in America, think of Napoleon Dynamite. That is a movie that has humor that is kind of like an acquired humor, very deadpan, very awkward, very quirky, very straightforward. Not a lot of emoting between characters, hence deadpanish. I would say that this is a similar tone and vein that we're getting here. It takes place in modern day Finland, in Helsinki, but focuses more in like the poor neighborhoods. And basically it's just this budding loving romance between these two people who one is, well, I guess in a way both are constantly trying their best to maintain a job, which is very difficult, especially when you live in a poor area and the options for yourself are not very vast. But they meet at a karaoke bar, which I thought was very cute. Music plays a lot of moments all throughout this film, so it does play a big part in this. And this movie has now introduced me to one of my newer bands that I am just obsessed with. It's a girl duo band, and the band's name is and now I hope I'm pronouncing this right. MAXX. I think that's how you pronounce it, or MAXX. In Finland, they are referred to as the Spice Girls of Finland. And they are very well known and very popular. And their tone is also very serious and deadpan. And their music is very kind of like throwback to like 80s electronic kind of poppy, happy synthesizer heavy type of music, but they basically sing about serious stuff. Kind of just think if the Smiths and Morrissey was more poppy and kind of electric. That's kind of like how I would compare it. So I've been listening to their music all throughout the weekend because I love the sound. I love how they sing. It's just the melody is just so my jam, and it's because of this movie that I was introduced to them. So I was really happy about that. But it's a funny movie where the two main people, they meet and they had one glorious day that turned into a date, and everything went right. They had coffee together, ate a little bit, they watched a movie. I love how the movie that they watched was that Bill Murray and Adam Driver movie directed by Jim Jarmusch. Oh, God, what is it? The Dead Don't Die or something like that. I've never seen it. But I didn't hear great things about it. The Dead Don't Die. I was kind of close. But cinephiles, indie lovers, they praise Jim Jarmusch. Like Blake, for example, that's one of his favorite directors, if not favorite director. So I love, and you can kind of tell that this director, these are his favorites, right? So he features a Jim Jarmusch movie in the film. He features two patrons leaving, saying, it kind of reminds him of a film from Godard, and other comparisons. So you could see where the pedigree of filmmaking of this director kind of like looks up to and all. So they had a lovely, lovely day, and she gives him the phone number. They don't even know their names or what have you. And then everything goes wrong after that. He loses the number, he loses a job, because he is struggling with alcoholism. They meet each other again, and then he gets, invited for dinner, and they get into a fight, and and then, it's like all of these like things that are preventing them from being together. Even up to the point where he is rushing to meet up with her when he finally like quits drinking. He's at a bar with the girl band who is in the movie. Moistitetot. They're in the movie performing one of their songs, and the lyrics of the song kind of hits him and it resonates with him. And he's like, you know what? I need to turn my life around. He quits drinking. He says he's going to do like better stuff, and he calls her up and says, hey, I'm changing my life because of you. And she's like, you better rush on over here. He rushes in. He gets hit by a train. He doesn't die, but now he's in the hospital. So again, it's like that type of humor that's very like deadpanish, very European, I would say, in a way, and it's just crazy circumstances that happen all throughout the film. But my gosh, I really enjoyed it. It was really quite a treat to watch. I thought the chemistry between the two are great. I love the interactions that they have with their friends. He has his friend who, again, very serious, very deadpan. When they're at the karaoke bar, he's like, I'm going to sing this song and I'm waiting for my moment to be called from a record label. And I don't know the song he sang. It's a Finnish song. It didn't seem that great to me, but he's like, I'm still waiting for my call from the record label and all that. And then she has a friend, just again, very, very similar in vein, in the tone, the humor, the way they interact. And it's just, again, it's very much a slice of life type of rom-com movie. And it was, not everything has to be spectacle. I've said this before multiple times. When one of my favorite films from last year was this movie called Jules. It was very simplistic in its approach, but because of the storytelling, because of the character development, it was extremely, extremely charming, and I fell in love with everyone in it. And the story itself it ended up becoming very emotional to me. Now, this wasn't like an emotional movie, but it was entertaining. And it was, again, just something that you could see in everyday life situations and scenarios, that this could really happen this way. It happened. I'll know to the extent of, the bad circumstances that happened that prevented them from being together. But it just feels like I'm watching normal, everyday people going through their life and experiencing what they're experiencing. And sometimes that is the brilliance of filmmaking, to be able to bring you into the world of these people and make you care enough for them that you are wanting to watch and see what happens to them and how they live on their life and how they carry on about their business. And if they, meet up, if they end up together or not, all that. So I enjoyed it. I understand now why there was so much buzz around this film. And it was a very short movie. It was only an hour and 20 minutes or so, which is a great amount of time if you didn't want anything so serious and you just wanted something that was a little lighthearted, but still entertaining and enjoyable. Fallen Leaves is definitely one of those movies. And I was so happy that I was finally able to see it. I am curious about Aki's previous films. So I'm hoping that I can eventually go back and catch up on some of those, because I like the tone that this guy has. I like the type of stories that he has. Just based off of his filmography that I briefly looked at, it's a lot of rom-coms. So I feel like this is his bread and butter here. So I'm very, very much curious about the rest of his films there. Yeah. So that was Fallen Leaves. And again, as I'm going through these movies, let me know in the comments whether you're watching live here or if you're on the replay, if any, your thoughts about the movies that I'm talking about and everything. And again, if you don't know me by now, when I talk about these movies, it's full on spoiler stuff, guys. So don't be mad at me. Don't come at me if I ruin the movie for you and all. That's just what I do. And that is what I'm known for here on the channel. Like, if I am going to give a non-spoiler review, I will make sure to say that ahead of time. If not, expect no holds barred, and I'm just going to be mouthing off about the movies that I watched. All right. Last on my watching journey from the weekend is a Japanese movie called Monster. It is directed by Hirokazu Koreeda, who is one of my favorite Japanese movie directors today. He was responsible for 2018's movie Shoplifters that won the prize there at Cannes Film Festival. It also ended up winning Oscar for International Feature Film that year. I think it did. My memory all of a sudden just went out the window. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, it was not. Oh, it was nominated. Sorry. Hold on. I just want to make sure that okay. So it was nominated. It didn't win. But at Cannes, it won the prestigious Palme d'Or, which is the main award at the festival, and that's a big deal, really. And it had so many acclaims of that year, 2018. And that was definitely one of my favorite movies of that year. So having a chance to finally watch this, I was, this was definitely one of the things that I was really looking forward to watching last year. I never had a chance to really see it. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry. I had all this information in front of me, and then it just disappeared. All right. And it's one of those interesting movies because you hear the title Monster. So you're thinking, oh, this is going to be like a really scary thriller, maybe sci-fi, supernatural, or whatever the case is. And in a way, you could kind of say it is kind of thriller-like, but it's definitely more drama overall. And it's a very interesting film. And the one thing that that Koreeda does so well is that he knows how to weave a storyline to the point where at the end of it, everything comes together, almost like a Quentin Tarantino, like where he kind of builds and builds and builds. And at the end of the film, everything comes together and makes perfect sense and paints the overall picture. And whatever you had formulated in your mind as you were watching it changes because of the reveal at the end, or the coming together of everything, like a puzzle piece, right? And this movie tells a story through different points of views, 3 main points of views of characters throughout the film, but you also get points of views from other characters too. You get a point of view of the mom of one of the main boys there, who's played by Sakura Ando, who is my favorite Japanese actress today. So again, you have one of my favorite Japanese directors and one of my favorite Japanese actresses, who was in Godzilla -1 also last year. So she had a great year as far as I'm concerned. Then you have the point of view of one of the school teachers who is involved in kind of like the big dramatic storyline here. Then you have the point of view of the boy, one of the main boys. There are 2 main boys in this character. So you have a point of view from this boy. But you also get a point of view from the principal of the school. And you also get somewhat of a little point of view from the friend, the other boy that is featured in this film. But you see the glimpses of everything one by one. So the movie starts off with the point of view from the mom. Then we switch to the teacher, then we switch to the principal, then the boys, and all that. And then at the end, everything comes to a head, right? And this is a movie that basically says that depending on whatever situation you found yourself in, good or bad, if you were a victim of some sort of misdoing, whether it's a crime, abuse, theft, whatever the case is, or if you were accused wrongly of something that you didn't do, you are perceived and judged by other peoples. And the easiest way to judge someone is by calling them a monster, right? And that's basically the premise of the film, is that all of us can be a monster at any given point of time. We all have a little monster in us too, in a way. The 2 boys are, one of the boys is perceived as a monster because he acts different. And his affection towards the same sex is not to the liking of the father. So the father calls him a monster. Even says that he has the wrong brain in his head. He has a pig's brain in there, and I'm going to fix him. And that's the main storyline between the 2 boys. They kind of form this relationship. And it turns out that, in a way, this is a young romance that formed between the 2. The main boy, Sakura Ando's son, in the movie, also thinks himself as a monster because of the feelings that he's having for this boy. His mom, Sakura Ando, who plays Sayori, is perceived as a monster because of her overly protective concern of her son when things started happening to him in school. So it's easy to call an overprotective parent a monster because they're relentless and they're ruthless, because they just want to find out why their son is misbehaving or why the boy is being mishandled or punished so much in school. The teacher, the main teacher, is perceived as a monster because he is dating a woman from a hostess bar, and he's a teacher, so that's a big thing to frown on. He's also being accused of abusing and bullying the son in the movie. So he is being perceived as this monster character. The principal, she is depressed because her granddaughter was killed, run over by a car, who was driven by her husband. But then later we found out that no, it was her who did it by accident. Put the blame on the husband because she's a principal, a prestigious principal, and she doesn't want a bad rap. So she put the blame on the husband. The husband agreed, and the husband's now in jail. So she's now guilty because of all that, and she sees herself as being a monster. So it's multiple situations and things that happen in this movie, and we get all of these glimpses in these people's lives, and it all culminates at the end, where these two boys, all they want to do at the end of the day is be together and be happy. Right? So the big dramatic moment in the film is when the boys disappear and they are lost. They're not found. So you have the mom frantically looking for them. And this is all happening during like a major typhoon that's happening in the movie at the time. So the big hideout where they hang out was suffered from a mudslide, so they don't know where these boys are. You have the teacher that's trying to help the boys out. The teacher came to a realization, a come to moment where he feels so bad for accusing the son of being a bully when in fact that wasn't the case. It was just a victim of wrong circumstances, because his friend, the younger boy who he developed a relationship with, was being bullied by every other student in class. And if the other boy didn't stand up for himself, he would have been considered to be kind of like a wimp, right? So it's just about all of these different circumstances that are happening around all these different people. Where at the end you have Sakura Ando and the teacher looking for the boys, but the boys are together. They were able to survive the mudslide, and they're just frolicking around, just happy, just being together without all of this nonsense and bullshit around them. So it was a very, very beautiful film, very well crafted, very well put together. I'm not surprised because Koreeda is so good at that stuff. He's so good at weaving a storyline, and he's so good at telling stories about complex characters in complex situations. If you have ever seen the movie Shoplifters, that was a prime example of that, where you have basically a poor family that goes around shoplifting just for means to survive, and there's a lot of things that happen to the family that how do they act to this, how do they prepare for this, and they do a lot of questionable stuff, but are they the bad people because they just want to protect their family and protect the kids, protect other kids involved? So it's I think it's all about perception and how we perceive things, right? It's so easy for us to judge people because of what we initially see, what the rumors are, what we've been told, without understanding the full story behind every individual. And every individual has a story. All you have to do is sit down and listen. But it's so much easier for a lot of us to just judge and paint a picture with our own minds and our own perceptions and everything. and an easy definition for someone who's doing things that we may not agree with or we consider reckless or whatever is like, oh, that person, he's a monster. Oh, look at that monster. Oh, the way that guy acts, such a monster, right? That's basically the premise of this movie. And it was so well done, so good. I really, really enjoyed it. I loved it. And to cap out and into why I thought this movie was basically tailor-made for me, because you have one of my favorite Japanese directors, you have one of my all-time favorite Japanese actresses in it. The score is done by Ryuichi Sakamoto, who is one of my favorite Japanese composers, which I didn't even know until the credits rolled. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. No wonder why the score and the soundtrack was so emotional and so touching and fit everything. And, you know, for those of you who know, Ryuichi Sakamoto unfortunately passed away last year. I saw one of his final, I guess, performances on film last year at New York Film Festival with the documentary Opus, directed by his son. So it was nice to kind of see another final moment of Sakamoto's career scoring a film like this. And they had like a nice little tribute in memory of him at the end of the movie in the credits. But my gosh, this movie was so brilliant and so good. Now, I didn't give it 5 stars, because there were some things that I thought kind of dragged at times, which is very typical for Japanese films. I feel like a lot of Japanese directors and storytellers, they linger too much in moments. Like, for example, one of my favorite Japanese authors, Murakami, in his stories, he loves to be overly detailed and lingers in moments way too long that sometimes I zone out a bit. So there were moments like that here in the film. Nothing too bad, but still, I felt like it was bad enough that it lost a star for me. But at the end of the day, I gave it 4 stars out of 5. And I gave it a big heart there. And this movie was brilliant. It was exactly everything I was hoping for. And I'm just happy also I was in the right mindset for it too. And yeah, I highly recommend this if you are a lover of foreign film, if you're a lover of complex storylines, complex characters, that can be very relatable. I always recommend this director, and I would definitely recommend this movie, Monster, to check out. So that is my review on Monster. Fallen Leaves, by the way, I didn't mention this before, but Fallen Leaves I gave 4 out of 5 stars also on Letterboxd, and I gave it a big heart there because I just really enjoyed that movie so much and so thoroughly. So I'm curious if any of you will be interested in watching any of these movies after you hear me talk about it. As always, let me know in the comments whether you're watching live or on the replay. I'm always excited to talk about these movies with all of you and enjoy the cinema for what it is. All right. How about some headlines? Shall we do it? Let's do it. Headlines. I don't have a song, but let's make up one. Headlines. All right. Let's see what's popping and locking in news. So here's an interesting trivia question for all you video game lovers out there. It's something that just got popped up, and I was like, you got to be really? I was not expecting this, but with all the major titles that came out last year, and I don't usually talk about video games in the Monday show. I usually save that for Friday, but this is something that stood out, and I want to kind of just like get it out of the way. Top selling game of all of last year. When you think about that, what's the title that comes to mind? Now, last year we had titles like Amazing Spider-Man 2 that came out on PlayStation 5. Is it Amazing Spider-Man or just Spider-Man? Spider-Man, I think. Yeah, Spider-Man 2 that came out on PlayStation 5. We had Baldur's Gate 3 that won the Game Awards, which I don't really, take it or leave it. But it was a very well-received game. of last year, right? And then we have other titles that were sprinkled around. Super Mario Brothers Wonder on the Switch that everyone was like loving and couldn't stop talking about. But none of them sold more copies than Hogwarts Legacy, which was 2023's top seller of all video games. Yeah. Oh, what was that? Sorry about that. Oh no, headlines again. My bad. Yeah, so when I heard about this, I was surprised. I was not expecting to see that. But here I'm on Dark Horizons. It's official for the first time in 15 years. A non-Call of Duty or Rockstar Games title has been confirmed as the best-selling video game of the year in the United States. The figures hail from analytics giant Circana via Matt Piscatella and cover both physical and full game digital sales from Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and the Nintendo eShop. According to the stats, Warner Brothers Games' Hogwarts Legacy came in at number 1, beating Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which was in second. Third was Madden NFL 24. Fourth was Marvel's Spider-Man 2. And fifth was The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Also making the list was Diablo 4 in 6th, 2022's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in 7th, Mortal Kombat 1 was 8th, Star Wars Jedi Survivor was 9th, and EA Sports FC24 was 10th. Starfield, Mario Brothers Wonder, Resident Evil 4 Remake, MLB The Show 23, Dead Island 2, Final Fantasy 16, Street Fighter 6, second-year sales of Elden Ring, and long-running stalwarts Mario Kart 8 and Minecraft round out the top 20. There are caveats, though, this article continues to say. The list does not include digital sales for the Zelda, Mario, and MLB titles, so actual sales are likely higher, especially in the case of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which broke records for the franchise. So there you go. Hogwarts. Like it's now, when they release the digital numbers, whenever that happens, I'm sure there could be a switch in guard there. But that is fascinating for a game title that was very controversial when it came out, because obviously the backlash of J.K. Rowling and her stupid ass comments on social media and her thoughts and feelings about transgender roles and you know, homosexuality and all that good stuff. But you can't deny the fact that Harry Potter fans are rabid. And they are strong in numbers. And I guess in their minds, for the most part, J.K. Rowling can do no wrong. Or maybe they just don't pay enough attention to all the behind the scenes stuff. So I thought that was very, very interesting that was the main number 1 title of last year. For now, until the digital sales numbers and all that come out. So we'll see what happens when that final release is done. There was a headline that came out over the weekend that I did a double take on. I was like, wait, what? So apparently, Channing Tatum, you know, Mr. Magic Mike himself, is going to star in an adaptation of the MAXX. The MAXX with 2 X's at the end. Shout out in the comments if you know exactly what I'm talking about, if you remember the MAXX. The MAXX, for those of you who don't know, was an Image Comics title that came out. It's kind of like this interesting hulking type of character and all, but it really hit mainstream in the 90s when it was done it was turned into an animated feature, like an animated series on MTV. This was around the time MTV was really experimenting with a lot of animation. They really were trying to be this new outlet for kind of unique storytelling and unique visionaries. They had like these live action series and shows that were kind of like off the beaten path, kind of like what we expect from Adult Swim these days. But MTV was the ones that really spearheaded that whole thing, especially when it comes to animation. They had another title, Aeon Flux, that was very popular at the time. They turned that into a live action movie with Charlize Theron. And this was also around the same time that Beavis and Butthead were first introduced to our eyes, because they debuted on MTV around the same time. The MAXX was also part of that whole thing. And I was still kind of young during that time. I liked the series. I enjoyed it. It was definitely unique and different from all the other animated series that we were getting at the time. A little bit more adult, because again, this was the MTV generation. This was the MTV crowd. But once it was all said and done, it wasn't anything that I thought about afterwards. As far as I'm concerned, I may be wrong. The comic series ended a while ago. I'm trying to think who the creator was of this. Let's see, because it kind of escapes right now. Sam Keith, that's right, Sam Keith. Sam Keith was known. I was introduced to Sam Keith when he did a run in Marvel, doing, I believe he did the Hulk. He was doing a lot of Hulk titles at the time. But yeah, it was a very interesting character, a very interesting storyline. But if this remains to be true, it's just so bizarre to try to bring back something like this from the 90s. You have Todd McFarlane, who is still to this day hoping to bring Spawn back to the big screen. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But every year he always has an update. It's gonna start filming this year. It's gonna start filming this year. Blah blah blah. Give it up. Spawn had its time in the sun. For what it's worth. I love the HBO series. I thought it was such a great series. I enjoyed the comic book for what we got. That's it. The live action movie with John Leguizamo and Keith David. Well, it was a try. They tried, but I don't know anything about this. And again, this is the first time I was hearing about it. So I was like shocked. I was really, really shocked. And for Channing Tatum to be attached to it. So I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about this stuff when more news comes out on it. But that was one of those bizarre headlines I saw from the weekend that blew my mind. Really, really blew my mind. Today, Monday, the 22nd, is a big day in the Marvel universe because filming for Daredevil, the Daredevil series on Disney Plus, resumes today. So there's a lot of big buzz around the Daredevil series, especially with all the news that broke out in the last couple of weeks when you got the announcement that Deborah Anwal and Eldon Henson are returning to their characters, Karen Page and Foggy Nelson. Then it was announced that the season and the series will be written by Dario Scardapane. What a name! Who was responsible for the Netflix Punisher series, and is being directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who was responsible for Loki season 2, which I didn't mind so much. I thought Loki season 2 was very well done. Not great, but very well done. Let's see. I'm just reading some of the. They also just announced that it's no longer going to be 18 episodes. So instead, they're going to keep it in line with what we got from the Netflix series. So we're expect to see like 12 to 13 episodes, maybe even 10 for the first season. And if it continues on, that's going to be the format that they're going with. And then Philip Silvera, who served as a stunt and fight coordinator for the Netflix Daredevil series, has been hired to return for Daredevil Born Again, which I was excited to hear about because that's what made the show, was the stunt fighting, the hallway scene. I'll never forget the hallway fight scene and the staircase fight scene are some of the best filmed fight scenes I've ever seen on TV, movies, what have you. Ranked that up there as one of the top 5, top 10. So when I heard that news, I was extremely, extremely excited. So I think that is great moves, something to look forward to when it comes to this Daredevil series. So I'm very, very much excited about that. Now, one of the other pieces of news that came out, and I'm looking at this. This came out around the 18th, which was Thursday of last week. And it stood out to me for some reason. So, Pauly Shore, that's a name that we haven't heard about in some time now, right? Pauly Shore, it was announced that he was attached to do kind of like a bioflick, a biofilm, biography of Richard Simmons. And then I thought about it and I looked at a recent picture of Pauly Shore, I was like, oh my God, that's kind of brilliant because he does kind of look like Richard Simmons right now. Because, he aged, not as great or gracefully, but he does look like Richard Simmons. And then there was rumblings that Richard Simmons is distancing himself from the biopic because he did not give any permission or give any approval for any of that. So I was like, oh, we got some drama going on here, and usually when there's a biopic involved and drama's involved, that's usually fun stuff to like listen to and hear about. So I was under the impression that this was a biopic that was going to be in the works, right? Then randomly over the weekend, I guess the algorithm knew me well enough that I went on Netflix and all of a sudden I saw this thing drop called The Court Jester. Short film. Pauly Shore is Richard Simmons. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Where did this come from? What? It's like a 10-minute long short film. And lo and behold, I saw in the thumbnail, you had Pauly Shore looking like Richard Simmons, and he does freaking look like Richard Simmons. And it kind of like released under the radar. I didn't see any of the trades, social media, at least those that I follow. I didn't see any of them mention this, right? So at the time, I kind of saved it and bookmarked it and put it aside. It had like maybe 5,000 views, right? This morning, as I'm doing my slow prep for the show, I open it up. It's well over 600,000 views on YouTube. Way past 500,000. And I think the more and more people hear about this is easily going to be 1 million views by the end of the week. So I need to check this out. I haven't seen it yet. And I figured what better way to enjoy it than to enjoy it with all of you. So let us watch together and I will react to The Court Jester, the short film starring Pauly Shore as Richard Simmons. So let's go. All right, let me pull it up here. Now, I am going to be reacting to this, so be aware that I may be stopping it off and on to commentate on it because that's what you're supposed to do when you react to these things. It's only fair. Oh, hold on. I should also mention that the channel is the Lewis brothers. I guess written and directed by Jake Lewis. I don't know who that person is, but we'll see. We'll see what kind of job we get. What kind of product we get from this. I am so curious to check this out. All right, and just so I am fair, if you ever wanted to check it out at any time, I am linking it in the chat. right, I'm going to link it in the chat, and at the same time, I am going to include it in the description of this video. So if anyone else wanted to check it out on their own, sans commentary by yours truly, then you are more than welcome to do so. All right, hold on. Let me just make sure I have it all set up here. All right. All right, let us get to it. Very dramatic. Donuts, don't do it. Donut. Now, okay, before I continue, I'm assuming all of you are familiar with who Richard Simmons is, right? Now, I know that younger generations probably are confused or may not be so familiar with who this person is. Richard Simmons was a pop culture icon. You know, since the 80s, 90s, this guy has been around, and his main shtick is that he goes around and he promotes fitness, healthy eating, fitness. He appeared on numerous talk shows. He was a regular on David Letterman, Johnny Carson, Arsenio Hall, you name it. At the time, he was on it multiple times in a year sometimes. And his shtick is that he is like overly flamboyant, very high energy, and always like, you know, encouraging you that you can do it. This is something that you can do. You can lose weight. You just have to stop eating all this junk. Exercise regularly, and it doesn't have to be crazy exercising. Just keep your body moving and eat healthy. And he spoke to not only, ages like your 20s, your 30s. He also specialized and focused on elderly people. So much so that he created a line of videotapes called Sweatin' to the Oldies, or Sweatin' with the Oldies, or something like that. And it was a tape, an exercise tape, which, again, those things were very popular at the time. And it was a series of tapes where he encouraged you to exercise with him to oldie music. And when I say oldies, it's like music from the 60s, sometimes the 50s, 70s. And then later on, I think they included some 80s there as the time was catching up, right? And it's basically an aerobics tape, and you could see him with like a bunch of elderly people behind him, you know, encouraging him, having fun, all that stuff, exercise, exercise, exercise. So he was like this main exercise guru. He was also very known for wearing most colorful outfits you will ever see, the shortest shorts, vibrant, glittery, sometimes bedazzled looking outfits, right? Which unfortunately he was also made fun of. And as I mentioned, like him appearing on Letterman, he was a butt of the joke, of many of the jokes at the time. Howard Stern too. He was a very regular on Howard Stern. And in recent years, it's been reported that Richard Simmons has kind of gone in, he went into seclusion. I don't know if it's depression or if it's more serious mental, affects or whatever. But he has stayed away from the public eye for quite a while. And most of people who are surrounding him or who are interested to know and find out what's going on can't seem to get a hold of him. He refuses to do interviews. He's keeping to himself. Which is kind of sad too, because you could kind of tell like the last moments we've seen him in the public eye, he is very sensitive to the fact that, yeah, he looks different, he acts different, he dresses different, and he's always going to be the butt of the joke, right? So it's kind of sad, it's kind of unfortunate. So that's Richard Simmons in a nutshell. If you want to do more research, by all means, Google him, learn more about him. But growing up, Richard Simmons was always someone I saw on TV constantly, whether it was on a talk show, a variety show, or one of those damn infomercials about sweating to the oldies. It was just always something like that. So that is just like a brief recap on who Richard Simmons is. All right, let's continue. Did he go for the carrot? Good job.
Am I dry cleaning my office?
I don't know.
You an intern?
Segment producer?
Huh. You new?
I've been here for 7 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry, I didn't recognize you there. Hey, give this to Richard.
We're back in 30 seconds!
Aw.
He needs to hold it.
Oh, there it
up
is,
during his
sweating to the
segment. Camera
oldies.
one. Got it? Cool.
Places, everyone.
Oops, sorry.
10. 9.
Come on, buddy, you could do it.
So how's everyone doing tonight? Let's get some energy. Welcome to the Ellen Show.
7. 5. 4. 3.
All right. It's kind of interesting how, well, I'm not going to say anything. Let's just keep watching because I could be jumping the gun here.
2.
Oh my God, is she supposed to be Ellen? Holy cow. Yo, who did they cast for Ellen DeGeneres? Not just the cast, but the makeup. Holy cow. Oh man, that's kind of savage.
Helping people change their lives for decades. His latest DVD is called Sweat to the Oldies 5.
Oh, there. Yo, without seeing his face, he looks like Richard Simmons. That's so Richard Simmons right there. Just by the silhouette. Holy, wow. And the mannerisms too. Oh, you didn't make it. Give him the DVD, hurry up.
Richard Simmons!
Camera.
Yo, what is that? What is that screaming? Yo, I'm laughing also because it's Pauly Shore. It's just we're seeing the ridiculousness of Pauly Shore again. You know, I can't tell you the last time I've seen Pauly Shore act. But, you know, talk about another guy who had a moment in the sun for a while when he was part of the whole MTV generation thing and he blew up and did all these movies like Encino Man, Biodome, all this numerous stuff, right? And then I remember he did a movie called Pauly Shore is Dead, which is kind of like a parody, satirical parody on his life or something. Because it got to the point where people were just sick of seeing Pauly Shore everywhere, right? And from what I know now, his mom was the owner of the Comedy Store in Hollywood. So I think he kind of helps run it now. I think that's basically what he's doing, and he's helping with the talent over there and all. So, which is something that I didn't even know or realize until I saw the documentary series about the Comedy Store. So I didn't know he came from such prestige like that. You know, it's very interesting, his life and his story. So I don't know. This looks freaking hilarious so
Should we
far.
try to keep up with him?
You can hear Pauly in it too. Ah!
Why is there a guy just standing on the stage? Just standing there. Jesus.
Slow down. You're gonna hurt yourself. Okay.
I don't know where I am.
Now, Richard, I was surprised to find out that this is your 59th video.
Yes, 59th DVD.
Yo, again, how savage is the the prosthetics on this lady trying to look like Ellen DeGeneres? That is just so wrong. That's so wrong. Oh my God, that is brutal. Pauly looks great. I mean, that's almost a spitting image of Richard Simmons. But it's unfortunate though, because Richard Simmons has like this high-pitched voice. Here, we're just hearing Pauly being Pauly. I feel like.
DVD, yes.
Now, for folks out there who are looking to get in better shape, do you have any advice?
Yes, number one, love yourself. Have a lot of self-worth. And number two, lower your calories and watch your portions. And number three, move those buns! Hey, can I tell everybody that?
What?
Can I tell everybody that?
Talking this ear.
Mama wants to see, Mama wants to do. Tipsy, that's from Tipsy.
He's supposed to be holding a copy of Sweat Until the Oldies 5.
Where's his copy?
Look behind you, you
Everybody in
dummy.
your audience gets a copy of Sweatin' to the Oldies 5.
Again, I can't. First of all, I'm stopping to commentate because again, it's you know, that's just what you have to do when you do these things online. But this imagery of Ellen DeGeneres, the prosthetics, the makeup, you know, and then Pauly Shore as Richard Simmons, I can't get over it. It just looks so ridiculous, but at the same time, very accurate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna be your new piece of exercise equipment. Look, Ellen, look.
This management's gonna kill us.
Who was supposed to give it to him?
Who out there
Oh, this poor
wants to
dude.
dance with me and Ellen? I got the tunes and I got the moves. So
Uh-oh.
let's start sweating. Here we go, guys. Up.
Yeah, I mean, this is what he did. This is what Richard Simmons did. Like in all the videos, if you do a search on YouTube for like the Sweat Into the Oldies commercials, this is basically what you see, and people loved it.
Yes, you guys are doing great.
People loved it, but at the same time made fun of him all the time about it.
Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You guys are fantastic.
All right, we've got to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, more with Richard Simmons.
And we're out.
Oh, this poor guy.
Can I give you some advice? I know you're new here, but if you want to last, just stay out of people's way.
I've been here for 7 years.
Aw. That's rough. Let me guess, he's gonna have like a great encounter with Richard Simmons. That's gonna like lift him up, lift his spirits. I bet you that's what's gonna happen. He's depressed, so he's gonna want to splurge on the
Are
donut.
you gonna eat that?
What?
Do you mind if I?
No, go ahead.
I just love the rainbow sprinkles. I used to eat 12 of these in just one sitting. Memories, all alone in the moonlight. Cats.
Fucking Pauly
Here,
Shore.
take a seat. No, here, sit for a sec. It's okay. I'm gonna break. What's your name?
I'm David.
Hi, David. I'm Richard.
I know who you are.
Oh, do you? Orgasmic.
Oh,
you're
do
looking at me
you?
because I'm eating a donut? You think it's weird?
Oh, little.
Listen, every day I try to find a moment to bring me peace, okay? And every day it's something completely different. Pulling over the side of the road and just turning the radio off. Crying to When Harry Met Sally. And today it's a donut. You know, there was a time in my life when food was the only thing that brought me peace. Food was very nice to me, and I wasn't nice to myself.
Yeah, this is the typical shtick that he would always say in interviews. And then I feel bad calling it shtick because it's actually, you know, it is based off of what really happened to him. You know, he was overweight and he found comfort and solace in food, in eating. And that was the motivation, the driving factor to make him want to make that change and to encourage others that they can make the same type of change that he made. So whenever he went around in interviews and all that, this was always something that he would always say. And it would always just, you know, coming from experience, you know, which is, I like the fact that they're at least covering that here. So yeah.
You're only talking to me because I'm fat.
No, David. No, stop it. I saw you working really hard not to be noticed. And I know what it's like to want to disappear. Okay? And I could see it in you. What's my first rule? Like yourself. Okay? Like yourself. Your weight doesn't matter. If you like yourself, you're gonna be fine. And I have a sense you haven't been the kindest person to yourself lately, have you? But if I'm wrong, just say, Richard, you're nuttier than a squirrel turd.
What?
If I'm wrong, just say, Richard, you're nuttier than a squirrel turd.
No.
Don't be shy. Okay, you're beautiful. You're unique. But I've been where you are right now. Okay? And where I'm right now is I just love myself. Every part of myself. Even the 300-pound me. Which is why I let him out every once in a while to have a donut. And I think I could show you how to get here.
We're back in 30 seconds.
Here.
That was very sweet. This is turning out to be something completely different, something that I was not expecting, but in a very good way.
Have the rest of my donut. Or don't. But ask yourself, David, is this donut fit for a king? Because that's what you are, David. You're a fucking king. Okay, so don't forget about it. Okay? You're loved. You're loved by me. You're loved by the world. You're kind. You're beautiful. And you're unique.
You're beautiful, no matter what they say. Words can't bring me
Mama
down.
wants to hear, Mama wants to sing, Mama. Mama wants to hear, Mama wants to sing, Mama. Mama wants to see, Mama wants to hear, Mama. I love you, David. You're the fucking king.
Aw.
Don't forget it.
Your Court Jester. Oh my god, that's hilarious. I wonder if he really did have that card like that. Oh my god. That was very sweet. Very heartwarming. Totally not what I was expecting. Wow. We'll watch these credits. I always like support whatever film I'm watching or whatever by respecting and watching through the credits, but that was big kudos to the director and the people behind this in not making a huge joke out of it all. You know what I mean? Like, they could have easily have made this a big satirical parody on the life that is Richard Simmons. They could have just poked fun at him. They could have just, went out of their way to make fun of him and whatever. But they didn't. Instead,
We're gonna put Richard Simmons out there, and Richard, if you're
hold on. Instead, they put together this very heartwarming and touching short film that embodied the spirit of Richard Simmons and also told a very sweet message, right? Now, I mean, of course, you could look at his portrayal of Richard Simmons and you could think like, oh, it's kind of silly, over top, whatever. But honestly, if you put the two and two together, that's basically how Richard Simmons acted. You know? And it's a shame that they didn't get the blessing from Richard on this, because I guarantee you Richard probably had no idea what the film was going to be about or how the portrayal was going to show. But I thought this was extremely sweet and extremely heartfelt, like 1000%. I am going to bring up again one of these commercials, Sweating to the Oldies, just so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And we'll do a comparison. We'll do a quick comparison here. So here's Sweating to, commercial for. Oh no, this is the actual Sweating to. Oh no, let's not do that. I don't want to watch a full hour of this. Let's do Sweating to the Oldies commercial. Let's see here. Yeah, here we have. There's so many of them. And it's a lot of stuff. It's like Sweating to the Oldies, Sweating to the 90s. You know, he did so many versions of this thing. It's unbelievable. So this was a commercial here that aired in 1990. Sweating to the Oldies 2.
I'm flying. There you are. Where have you been? We've been waiting for you. Why, there's over 1 million people
Oh my
in there
gosh.
sweating to the oldies, and
I
you're
kinda
missing
remember
all the
this.
excitement. Well, don't worry, because we're moving this aerobic party to your house with Sweating to the Oldies 2. And honey, if you thought the first workout was a blast, then you ain't seen nothing yet. Because with Sweating 2, the party's just begun. This is one sequel that has
Yeah,
no
see?
equal.
There he goes.
You'll dance
It's
your bum
exactly
in a
the same way.
as my blistering hot rock and roll band pumps up the volume with a brand new performance of your favorite golden oldies. The only thing you'll find on this diner's
Oh my
menu
God, this is so
exercise.
ridiculous.
From legs to stomach to
This is
buns,
hilarious.
We'll serve you up the best
All right.
low-impact workout
You get the
you've
point.
ever experienced.
You get the point. But yeah, that's Richard Simmons, you know, and I thought the portrayal was respectable and respectful all at the same time. I didn't think it was damning in any way. I don't think it poked fun too much. They even, I could see here even the clip from Ellen where he showed up in Ellen. So hold on. I'm gonna let's show some of this, but I won't leave it on too long because I don't want to get any copyright strikes or anything. But here. I'm pretty sure they use this as a basis of you know, comparison and inspiration behind the short film. Yep. So there you go. That's Richard Simmons. And I think that was pretty much what they did. That's exactly what they did there. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it was not what I was expecting. And I thought they did a brilliant job in paying homage to Richard Simmons, his character, his messaging, what he's trying to put out there. I thought it was well done. Honestly, I thought it was very, very well done. And like I said, very charming, heartwarming, heartfelt, and not disrespectful in any way, in my personal opinion. Now, I'm sure Richard Simmons has his reasons as to, why he didn't want to be behind this and why he didn't want to back this. I'm sure he thought it was going to be like a big, a piece that's going to poke fun at him, and it's going to be distasteful. But I encourage him to check it out and see for himself, and I think they did a really good job overall with it. So again, if you're watching in a replay or what have you, let me know in the comments what you thought about that, because I thought that was very, very sweet in its own way. As we're getting close to the 12 o'clock hour here, which is usually when we bid adieu, let's just see what other pieces of news are hitting the headlines here from the weekend. One thing I did want to talk about, and because this is again a property that is very close to my heart, and that is the Fantastic Four. I've always been a huge fan of Fantastic Four when I was reading comic books back in the day. They're one of my favorite, I guess, superhero groups in comic books. I love the family aspect. I love the dynamic between everyone, the characteristics. I just always loved the Fantastic Four. So for the longest time, I've been always curious as to how Disney and Marvel Studios were going to treat Fantastic Four once they are able to. And obviously, we know they're working on a Fantastic Four film. And the biggest question was, what's going to happen as far as casting is concerned? I think that's like the biggest thing that a lot of people are dying to find out, and we're waiting to hear. There are certain things in the Marvel universe that, even though reception for their movies and most of their TV shows are very lackluster at the moment, there are two things that will help bring the energy back. Whenever we're going to get the X-Men and Fantastic Four announcement. Those are the two main things a lot of people are waiting for. And I think casting is the key here. So apparently there's this thing that released over the weekend that casting, they've closed out the casting for the four main members here. So again, I'm back on Dark Horizons here. A new report from Daniel Rickman via comic book, I guess that's CBM, that's comic book movies or whatever.com, indicates that deals have been closed for the four key cast members of Marvel Studios' upcoming Fantastic Four film. The scooper adds that an official announcement is imminent in regards to who will be playing Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Ben Grimm, and Johnny Storm. To date, only one actor has been reported on by the trades as being likely signed on for a role, and that is Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards as Mr. Fantastic. Now, that is very much true because we also saw that he had to bow out of a project because of scheduling conflicts. And I believe that's because of the fact that it's going to conflict with his time filming for Fantastic Four. The article continues saying, that said, rumors have already indicated that Vanessa Kirby will be Sue Storm. Joseph Quinn will be Johnny Storm. Eben Moss Backrack will be Ben Grimm. Other roles rumored in recent months have included Javier Bardem as Galactus and Anya Taylor-Joy as the Silver Surfer. WandaVision and Monarch Legacy of Monsters producer Matt Shankman is directing Marvel's Fantastic Four reboot that aims to shoot this summer at Pinewood Studios in London ahead of a May 2025 release. So we're just getting closer and closer to that official announcement that we've all been waiting for. And that is, again, who is going to be our family here? Who is going to be our Marvel's first family? I like the rumors that we're getting. And if you pay attention to the interviews and all that, I think we're pretty much locked in as these are the people who are going to be the Fantastic Four. I love Vanessa Kirby. I'm a huge fan of hers. I think she'll be a brilliant Sue Storm, Invisible Woman, even though I did think also Margot Robbie was going to be good too, because she was one of the longest rumors out there. And Emily Blunt. When there were still talks about Emily Blunt and maybe John Krasinski being the married couple there, being Sue Storm and Reed Richards, I thought that would have been great. But that's past its time. We already got a glimpse of John, in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and I thought that was a nice little kind of like poke nice little troll from Marvel to the fandom there. But I think Vanessa Kirby will be great as Invisible Woman. Joseph Quinn, I love him in Stranger Things. I think he's a brilliant actor. Playing Johnny Storm, I think that would be a kind of an interesting dynamic between him and Vanessa Kirby, because they're supposed to be brother and sister there. Eben Moss Backrack, I believe he was in Andor. I know he was in Game of Thrones also. Very strong actor. He's already kind of brooding type of personality, and the characters that he plays are very brooding. So I think you kind of need that for Ben Grimm as the thing, because remember, Ben Grimm is one of those melancholic characters who turned into a monster, turned into this creature who people are afraid of, running away from all the time. Unlike Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, they still maintain their human presence, while Ben unfortunately transformed into this rock creature and he can never go back. So it's a very, very sad character there. And I think you need someone who can portray like a brooding, grim like presence. And I think that actor will do well there. As far as Javier Bardem as Galactus, I don't know. Bardem is a great actor, but I don't know if I could see him kind of like that. Anya Taylor-Joy as Silver Surfer, that's going to be an interesting twist in the character. And I'm sure you're going to get a lot of detractors, a lot of people who are going to be against that. I like Anya as an actress. She is definitely one of my favorite young actresses today. But do I want to see her tied to this franchise like that? I don't know. I'm very lukewarm to that idea of having her be Silver Surfer there. But yeah, I'm hoping that we're going to get this announcement very soon, because one of the things I said for the longest time, especially when the strikes happened last year, was the minute the strikes are over, Marvel needs a home run. Marvel needs something to kind of get the fandom back on its side. The only way to do that is to make the casting announcement for Fantastic Four and make it so much so that people are going to lose their minds over it. We haven't gotten it yet. But when it comes, I'm sure a lot of people are going to pay attention to it. And it's either going to be overly positive or middling, right? I guess we shall see. I think a lot of the Daredevil news that we've been getting is promising and is keeping the fandom checked and at bay. Hopeful that they're going to be treating this beloved character, one of my favorite characters too, Daredevil, and the proper respect, especially when you had such a beloved series on Netflix that was well received among the fan base. You need to kind of find a way to recreate all of that. So I think Marvel has gotten some, positive feedback because of all that, but they still need wins. And with Deadpool 3 coming out this year, that being the only Marvel film releasing this year, a lot of things riding on that. So we'll see what happens. Marvel needs a win. Marvel needs some home runs to kind of get back in the proper mindset in the fan base there. So we shall see what happens. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how that's all going to play out there. All right. Let's see if there's anything else that stands out as far as news is concerned. Let's see here. Also, like what was it? This morning, there was something that broke. Gillian Anderson was just cast in Tron 3. They announced that Gillian Anderson, of course, you know her from X-Files. She is cast to star in Tron 3, which they're starting to film now. They're beginning to film now. Tron, I was a huge fan of the original film. I wanted to like the second film a lot. I liked it, but there were a lot of problems with it. Of course, the best thing out of that was the soundtrack, because Daft Punk was involved in it. When I heard that they were going to make a third, I was kind of, okay, I don't know if that's necessary. But if you want to try to do something and bring this franchise back, then let's see what you have in store for us. So I'm always looking forward to get back to the grid and see what's going on there. So hearing that Gillian Anderson is attached to it is interesting. I don't know if it's enough to kind of keep me like, oh my God, Gillian Anderson is part of Tron 3. Let's go. You know, I don't think it's anything like that. But it's still a piece of good news that we have at least somewhat of pedigree attached to a film like that. So we'll see how that all pans out. As far as the rest of the news is concerned, nothing really stands out. Nothing else stands out there, I should say. Nothing that I think it's worth talking about right now at this moment. So I think I'm just going to call it here, y'all. Again, I always appreciate you who have tuned in, whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay. I always appreciate the views there and the support that you've been giving the channel this whole time there. So again, enjoy your Mondays. Enjoy your weeks ahead. I will be back again live tomorrow morning, 8:30 p.m. I'm sorry, not p.m. 8:30 a.m. To cover and react to the Oscar nominations announcement there. So if you're up at that time and you want to join in on the fun, make sure to tune in around that time. Otherwise, the next stream of the morning after live show will be back again on Wednesday. Outside of headlines, I'll be talking about the weekly binge, where I cover the latest series that I binge watched, and I'll give my thoughts and opinions on that. So stay tuned for that. And then Friday will be the next show after that, where we'll talk about headlines, what's releasing that weekend, and we'll talk more about video game related news and content. So if all that interests you, make sure to stay tuned. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe so that you can get to stay up to date with everything we do here on the channel and get notified every time a new episode is uploaded, I do videos posted, or every time I go live and stream. So thank you again so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, your mornings. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe, and I will catch you next time. All right, peace out, y'all. Bye-bye.